All right, you should be all set to go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is June 17th, 2025, and this is the meeting of the Northborough Planning Board. This meeting is being held fully remote, and it is now 6:03. The first on our agenda is a discussion of DCAM surplus land at 0 Lyman Street in Northborough. To start off this meeting, I actually made a little PowerPoint presentation to go through in case there are people watching that haven't been following. So I'm just going to pull it up. Okay. My share button's too low on the screen. Let's see. Everybody see that? Although it's weird, I see two things.
Right.
Now you see my PowerPoint. I was trying to show a PDF. So I'm going to close that. I saved it as a PDF too. I had it ready to go, believe it or not. Okay. Now, did that come up?
Yep. The map
Be a
is.
PDF. Okay. So, recently,
Amy, can you expand your screen?
oh, I see it full screen. So you only see a little?
It's just a small. So if you click on the box next to the X on the upper right-hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That made it small for me.
Hmm.
You know, maybe I'll bring it up as a PowerPoint.
It was
Because,
bigger before as a PowerPoint.
okay. And when I looked at it now, when I was just talking to you guys, it was full screen on my computer.
Hmm.
So, try this again. Share screen again, and I can't see the button. All right, here. What's going on? Now is that? I know you can see all the left side. Now is that full screen? I know it has little floors on the bottom, but can you see the parcel?
Yes.
Or is it full screen now?
For the most part.
Oh, really?
It
What
works.
else do you see?
It's better than it was before.
Yeah.
What can you see other than the PowerPoint?
Maybe if you click a slideshow
I
and
did.
make it bigger.
It looks fine to me.
Well,
I am on
that's fine.
slideshow.
Yeah, it's fine. Let's move on.
Okay. All right. Well, what I see, and hopefully you guys see, is a picture of the parcel. The parcel at 0 Lyman Street.
Yep.
And now do you see the wording on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
So, included in the Affordable Housing Act was Section 122. And that is, see, now I'm all thrown off because I just had to do that.
Mm.
But a part of the Affordable Housing Act, there was a way that the state was going to be allowed to sell surplus land that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And what came out of that is 0 Lyman Street in Northborough. We have a 5.45 acre parcel that the state is going to be auctioning off in September. And from the guidance, right now, we must at a minimum do 4 units by right, which would be 21.8 units on that 5.45 acre parcel. Currently, that parcel is zoned RC, which is 20,000 square foot lots, 100 feet of frontage. But that lot, which is a big triangle, actually has 1,154 feet of frontage that I could see.
Hmm.
And it is not on public sewer and water, but sewer is a half a mile away on Railroad Road. So this is the parcel up here in the corner. And this is Lyman Street. So it's directly adjacent to the Del Webb condos.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see the picture?
Yep.
Yep. So that is the parcel. I'm wondering actually if Del Webb is going to bid on it. I talked to a couple people that have talked to the people at DCAM that are auctioning it off. And they said they were going to go for best price, quickest way to build housing. Like they want units fast. And they're going to go to the highest bidder. Westboro wanted to buy the land for their town, but they're not sure. At first, the state said, you know, you can bid with everybody else.
What does that mean that Westboro wanted to buy it for their town?
So they wanted to buy it themselves, but they cannot keep it as open space. So they want to buy it. Their Affordable Housing Trust wanted to buy it.
Mm-mm.
Wanted to buy our parcel,
No,
Yeah.
their parcel.
which is between that development and our land.
It's actually on the other side of this property, but they have a parcel in between. So they just wanted to buy their parcel for their town to use. They heard that the state was going to surplus this land and sell it. So the town of Westboro Affordable Housing Trust reached out to DCAM and said, hey, do you think we could buy it? And from what I heard is DCAM met with them a couple times and told them that they had to go through the bidding process with the other developers.
So what was the purpose of them wanting it? I'm unclear about that.
They want to build affordable housing.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep,
But
sorry.
but wait, it's Westboro wants to build it on Northborough land?
No,
That's
Is
what
Westboro-
that's what I was like, what?
sorry if I'm confusing, but Westboro also has a parcel that the state is selling. So we have
Okay.
one. We
Yeah.
have the triangle up at the top, and then there's the Del Webb property, and then there's some more property, and then there's a parcel in Westboro also on Lyman Street.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's not adjacent to the Del Webb. They have a parcel in between.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was just, I talked to someone else. I talked to Kate Donahue, the state rep, and she asked, you know, what Northborough was thinking. And I said I couldn't speak for Northborough, that we were meeting tonight,
Mhm.
because she knew Westboro had been talking about trying to buy it. But the state kind of told them to get in line and bid on it like everybody else. Because
And
they
does
want,
the does every unit in there have to be affordable housing?
no, and that's the interesting thing about it. This is all kind of fluid right now, but the first guidance from the state was that they weren't going to require affordable housing. So this came out of the Affordable Housing Act, but they're gonna auction it off, highest bidder, quickest to build houses, but they weren't gonna require a component of affordable housing. Right, so. Yes, so I think, but now the second time Westboro talked to them, like, we could add, that's what our comments are for. We can send comments to the state with what we would like to see on the parcel. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen, but just as a town, we can send some comments in for guidance. Like, we could say that we just passed the inclusionary zoning bylaw and we would like to see affordable housing. And she told me Westboro is gonna do the same thing, that they would like to see 20% affordable housing. I think the
Okay.
state, the way they're gonna do it, they might be writing an RFP. So the information that we give them They can choose to add to the RFP or they could choose not to add it to the RFP. But they just want comments from us. And we have
So
till July 18th now to make comments.
Did they say one of their criteria is they're going to the highest bidder? So does it really matter what the developer is going to do as long as it's the highest bidder? Is this just a
Well-
revenue source for them?
I don't know, because they're being very vague. They have some guidance. And Lori and I asked a whole bunch of questions. And they kind of sent a letter back that regurgitated the same guidance. So one other thing I read in it that had another question is it says with an agreement, a municipality would not need to adopt amendments to their zoning bylaws or ordinances. So they're trying to say if we work with the developer and negotiate a legally binding agreement, then we wouldn't need to adopt amendments to our zoning bylaws. So a question I had for the state right now is, does that mean if we don't have an agreement with the developer, we're gonna have to update our bylaws to say we allow 4 units per acre? Because right now it's zoned RC, which is residential, but we only allow single family and duplexes, which would be about 2 units per acre if they had the right frontage. But the way this was written, one of my questions would be, do we have to change our zoning for this? There are a lot of unanswered questions right now, at least in my mind.
Yeah, I would say so.
And another unanswered question is, does a developer, other than the 4 units per acre, do they have to follow the rest of our, regular zoning bylaws?
I think that's the best question, right? Can they supersede any of our zoning laws? And then I'm wondering, why would we even alter our zoning laws in this instant?
Mm.
That-
Mm.
Well,
this is-
if we were to alter our zoning bylaw, then that would affect the entire district. So.
Right,
I think because it's state land typically doesn't have to comply with zoning.
Hmm.
So that's why they can set their own parameters. So I think what they're looking for is they're looking to understand what the town ideally would want. And then, as Amy said, they'll decide whether to incorporate that into the requirements or the RFP or not.
Right, so I think that, obviously, if I were the state and if I were a developer, I would want kind of maximum impact, meaning, similar build style to what's next door to it right now with high density. But then we also know that they've got a sewer problem, but Amy, did you mention that sewer is a half mile up the street or about?
yeah.
So it could be worth the investment to bring that to sewer as well. So, I mean, and my main concern always is with, the impact mostly on the schools, but also town
Mhm.
resources if you end up with a development of that size. But if there's nothing we can do about it, other than say, we don't want you to do that, then I don't know.
Well, right now, from what I could gather out of the guidance, is we're not allowed to say they have to do any waivers, variances, special permits. But if it's by right, then does that mean they follow the rest of our zoning bylaws? As long as it's 4 units per acre? That's the big question out there right now. And we did, like I said, we tried to ask questions, but we didn't really get answers. But I was told Westboro's had 2 meetings with them. So maybe we could set up a meeting, I was thinking, Lori, before July 18th, and we could ask some of our questions. They seem more forthcoming, like over the phone. I think nothing's being put into writing because it's so fluid right now. And it did say there may be more guidance coming from EO, HLC. So I feel like the basic input we have right now is 4 units per acre minimum. And, we can make comments and that's it.
Are any of those meetings that Westboro's had available for public
No, I don't think they've been public. They've been with staff and like either, I think the select board chair was in on one of them, planning board chair was in on one of them. It wasn't a public meeting. It was just discussions with the state on, what they could do and what they couldn't do. They're trying to get a handle on it, and they had a specific use in mind. And they're trying to work towards the end goal of
Hmm.
doing it, but they're unsure if it's gonna be allowed. So
Well,
right now, it did say we could reasonably regulate, including bulk and height of structures, lot area, setbacks, open space, site plan review. So Lori wrote a letter today that we can share after our discussion with some ideas. And I also invited Judy Boyle. I don't know if she's in the audience to talk about, what is it that we're looking for in town? What do the realtors see that people are looking for? Because if we were going to give comments to the state on what we'd like to see, it should be, I wanted to get input from a realtor to see what she was hearing people were looking for, whether it be rentals.
She is in the audience.
Okay. Should I invite her in to speak to this right now, or I could wait till the end? Let's see. I'm going to allow Judy to talk if she doesn't mind, just to give us her input on what she hears. Judy, are you allowed to unmute?
Yes, yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
hi,
Thank you for the invitation to provide a professional opinion. Amy did reach out to me to ask me what I'm seeing as the biggest need in Northborough. And from my experience, it's really entry to mid-level. Entry, a lot of first-time home buyers, well, lots of people want to move to Northborough, mainly for the schools, for the proximity to commuting routes and whatnot. But they can't afford to. So I like the graphic I'm looking at right now, the entry level 1,200 square feet, 500 to 600K. That would be the most favorable price point to bring some first-time home buyers into the area. And even at that price point, it may even allow some of our teachers, our public safety employees who might otherwise be able to take advantage of 40B affordable housing, that might put it in put it to a price point that they might be able to purchase in the communities in which they work. The next range would be the mid-range, the 700 to 800K there. It would permit a lot of, I'll use the term empty nesters to downsize without sacrifice, and bring a lot of home buyers that purchased entry-level homes to upsize. So it would free up a lot of the bottleneck that we're experiencing in town. It's just with the shortage of inventory. A lot of it is just that a lot of homeowners that have been here for 20 or 30 years or not more would like to downsize, but they have nowhere to go. So my professional opinion is the entry level 500 to 600, possibly up to 700 which is kind of due to all the appreciation we've had in the last few years. That is a very popular price point, but not not affordable enough for people that are first-time home buyers. If that helps.
Thank you. Right. That does help. But one thing, Lori and I talked about too was asking the state to include in a comment, you know, we just passed the inclusionary law. The purpose of this Affordable Housing Act was to bring forth affordable housing. So on top of smaller homes, we also wanted them to include some, you know, in affordable homes. I see, Bill, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. So are we assuming, I mean, you're talking home ownership here instead of rentals.
Mhm.
Are we assuming they're gonna build single family homes and not just, you know, couple big rental buildings?
Well, that's what I
Apartments?
thought we could bring up as a comment, you know, they want comments from us, so if we said as a town and a community, residents are looking to buy entry-level homes for home ownership, you know, will they do it? I don't
Mhm.
know. But I asked what they were looking for comments, and we didn't get a reply, so we thought we would just make all the comments that would benefit our town and people looking to move into town.
Right.
Mhm.
But it sounds like from the response we did get that they're looking to build as much housing as possible.
It was
Um,
mostly as quickly as possible,
Right.
from what I
And
heard.
so would it make, you know, if somebody came in, put in a few big buildings and made apartment complexes, I would think that would get the bigger bang for the buck. So I'm sort of, you know, going to Judy saying, you know, which do you think people would still be interested if they came in and put in apartments instead of single family homes? Would people still want to move to Northborough in that scenario? Sort of like not as big as an Avalon, but that sort of, you know, that type of building.
Bill, a big limiting factor here is there's no public water and no public sewer. So like I know for the Motel 6 property that's being renovated, the septic system that they needed to support that building is so large that they had to buy another parcel of land, which had a
Right.
single family house on it, knock it down, and then build their septic system on that parcel.
Yeah, but I think in our last conversations, we were thinking that, you know, the septic was on the other side of the town line, right? Half a mile away, if you're a developer coming in looking that, you know, you could make $1 million in rentals, you know, what's another 100,000 or 200,000 to extend that to that half mile?
It'd probably be millions.
Isn't that crazy?
So hey Lori, where's the closest water to this parcel? Town water?
I can look on the GIS. Let me just bear with me a minute while I do that. Hmm.
It's at Railroad Road too, also with the sewer, if they ran the water and sewer together, but I'm just guessing.
You know, unfortunately, I on my computer at work, I have the password programmed in, but I don't on this computer, so I can't access the water line for the GIS from here. So I can't tell you, I'm sorry, but I can look that up tomorrow and let you know. It's a ways away.
And that is, I mean, those costs to run those lines is like Lori says, it's really expensive, so. Could be a limiting factor.
On the
Now,
next slide,
maybe,
sorry.
maybe if, Del Webb was interested in purchasing it, I suspect that they have water and sewer service.
Right.
And then they could just hook this property into their existing water and sewer system.
That's like the most
And
natural
so
fit
that's a way to build the density. Outside of that, if the town were, if a developer were interested in hooking into Westborough's water and sewer system, then that would have to be negotiated, I believe, by the select board of the town of Northborough with the town of Westborough to see if they would allow that connection.
So, but isn't Del Webb on the town of Westboro water sewer?
Yeah, so that's why I was saying that'd probably be the easiest way to hook in, because if it were just an extension of their existing development that's right on the town line, then they could probably just hook into the main that's serving that development.
Mm-hmm. And that's what distance? Maybe a tenth of a mile at the most?
It directly abuts.
Yeah, could you
Right,
see-
but I'm guessing their water main doesn't go right up to the borderline, or does it?
I'm not sure if they would even have to go as far as their driveway. Maybe, I don't know how it was designed,
Yeah,
but clearly building number 4 on this
Yeah.
map,
Yeah.
maybe they could even hook into that. I believe there's some elevation change between this parcel and Del Webb, if I can remember correctly from when I did my site visit.
hmm.
So that might be a bit of a challenge, but anyway, that would, that would certainly be the shortest route to obtain public water and public sewer.
The next slide, I just wanted to talk about our SHI and how we are at 10.28%, but I mean, Carter probably has watched our meeting, so he probably knows, but so this is a subsidized housing index. And we try to stay above 10%.
Mhm.
So if we fall below 10%, then we open ourselves up to a 40B. But we've done a good job, and actually only 20% of the towns in the state are above 10%. So, but if we did 100 new units without affordable housing, it would bring us down to 10.11, and 150 new units would be at 10.08. So I was using that just to show that I would think as a comment from the planning board and the zoning board, we'd want to see at least the 15% affordable housing, similar to our inclusionary zoning bylaw, which we just passed to try to help the state with their affordable housing goals. So it would be a shame if they said, no, you can't do that after, I feel like we're trying to follow along with what they're looking for.
Right.
And
This
I
was
just
a s-
wanted to clarify that that number is based on the number of housing units that existed on the 2020 census. So housing units have been constructed over the last 5 years at an average pace of about 8 units per year. So if you take 8 units times 5, then we're already well on our way to that 100 new units. So that of course is 40 units. And it's not always 8 units. Some years it's 6, some years it's more than that. I'm just using 8 as the average.
I was just hoping the state will be, kind and allow affordable housing since that's what they're looking for. And we're trying to do it.
Right. You would think that their mission would also be to align with what they're proposing for our goals.
Mm. Yeah,
If,
and they might be, at first it sounded like they weren't going to be, but now if they listen to the other towns, they might,
Yeah.
but nothing's definite. So
If
this
the
is
s-
just,
oh, I just had to, yeah, I mean, if the state is looking for a lot of units built quickly, if we express that we also want that, do you think they'd be more willing to listen to how we want that to happen?
I would hope, but I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. I did reach out though to the superintendent and to the chair of the school committee, but it sounds like they couldn't make it tonight. This came from the June 4th school committee meeting, and they talk about the caps when they hit the maximum students per room.
Mm-hmm.
And next year, this light yellow are the caps for next year. The dark yellow are the classrooms that were capped this year. So it shows that our schools, they're starting to get the max amount of students. And the ones that aren't capped, like the cap here is 40, so it's one student away. This one's one student away. So that was the only thing I was thinking of. I wouldn't want to use this as a comment to the state, but as a town, I would hope we would take it into consideration and, stick with the 4 units per acre, which is what the state was recommending. Because there was a lot of discussions at town meeting about Proposition 2.5. And if we go over the caps, we're hiring new teachers and the cost will go up and it'll affect the residents and the seniors who are already here in town.
So Lori, I have a question on if there's any way to really manage the growth. Let's say a developer, state wants the fastest, the housing built the fastest. Let's say a developer comes in and puts up whatever 21 houses in the next year and a half. Is there any way for us to manage that smartly and in a, I would say, a healthy way for the town?
Well, they are particularly sensitive to any sort of caps on the number of bedrooms or, saying that they want it to be 55 and over housing only. I know from going through the MBTA process as well as the accessory dwellings, they want family housing. Now, as a town planner, I can tell you that single-family homes tend to generate the largest number of children,
Right.
school-age children. Whereas, multifamily, garden style in particular, tend to have fewer children. The same is true with like townhouse development, you may have children, but oftentimes the folks who are interested in, say, duplexes or townhouses are maybe 55 and over folks who are looking to downsize and they no longer want to maintain a yard.
You're right.
So, I think you can suggest particular types of development, like when you're thinking of the density, you can, like if like I said, single family homes tend to have the largest number of school children. So if you want to stick with the 4 units per acre, maybe suggest duplexes. So you
Mhm.
may be able to attract that 55 and over crew looking to downsize.
Mhm.
But I think that's probably the only way to do it. I don't think they're going to look kindly to just saying, like I said, well, we want to limit the number of bedrooms and we want to limit the age.
I was thinking more the rate of growth in the sense of, you know, like you might in a subdivision, say you got a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3, so that the town and the municipal services have a chance to really wrap their heads around what's going on. So, you know, because I definitely have some concerns. We just did the MBTA, we've done inclusionary, we've done ADUs, and now this, and I feel like if all of this starts to come together in the next year or 2, 3, 4 years, we could really be in a really difficult element of trying to manage growth in a healthy and smart way.
Well, as Amy said, their goal is to have these units built as quickly as possible. So
Right.
I don't think that this is going to be an opportunity for the town to say, whoa, slow down, we want it to be phased. I don't think they'll be open to that.
I do think they'll be open to our comments, Millie, because I feel like where they're saying they want it as quickly as possible and they want our comments, if we say that, you know, RC right now, we allow 2 units per acre, but now we'll allow duplexes that are 4 units per acre. And we'll allow them by right, and maybe, you know, we have 10 or 20,000 square foot lots, but we say on that 5 acres, they can place them wherever they fit. If we make it easy for the developer, then that's how they do it quickly, I think. What they
Mhm.
don't want is roadblocks, like saying,
Right.
yeah, they don't want roadblocks, but I think if we do basic things, like Lori said, like we said, okay, you can do duplexes. Then the developer might even work with us if we say, you know, that we want a sidewalk or we want a common open space. Or we want single families versus rentals because that's what residents are looking for in this area. They may listen to us, they may not. We might only get one bidder. I don't know who's gonna bid on the property. It could be Del Webb. And if it is Del Webb, will they allow the 55 and over? I don't know. I would think so, because Westboro has it, but
Yeah,
I
I'm
do know,
not looking to put up roadblocks, but I'm just looking to have some way to, if all of these things come together, let's say interest rates become favorable and all of a sudden building and construction is something that is affordable, this could be a challenge.
definitely. I think those are good points, totally. And I think with our other projects that we get in front of us that aren't state-owned land, we could take that into account
Mm-hmm.
where we can.
Yeah.
I also just noticed on some of the stuff the state was putting out that this wasn't like the first round of properties they were going to be trying to sell. I mean, is other state property in town potentially also they're going to try to do something similar?
They haven't let us know of any other property in Northborough.
Mm,
But I just noticed on the website that they were posting about it, that they would be looking at what other properties they can do
Yeah.
the same with. So if
Hello.
it's more in
Right.
town or
I-
not.
Yeah.
Nothing. Can you in for the night?
Oh,
Oh,
Judy, yeah, I can put you back in the audience.
Oh, sorry, I'm actually on a planning board meeting on Zoom. Okay.
I just took off her right to talk, so if she wants us to talk, she'll have to raise her hand. Okay, I know Rick is in the audience. Let me see. I don't know if he wanted to add anything. Okay,
He just
Rick, I
put his
just
hand up. Yeah.
promoted you, so
Okay, can you hear me?
yeah, I
Yes?
can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you guys are moving in the right direction. I think it's important in the comments to emphasize our desire for some affordable housing to be part of the project. The other thing we have hanging over our heads from market rate housing is this 80-unit project on King Street, which has been approved by the ZBA. It's not clear yet what the developer is going to do over there. But if in fact, in the next year or two, 80 units of market rate housing go on that King Street property, combined with the normal growth of, 8, give or take, units a year of market rate housing in the rest of town, and this project, we're going to get below 10% sooner than we want to, which then means, my feeling is that baseball property across the street from Avalon is up for sale. That'd be a perfect place for, if we fall below 10%, for someone to come in, purchase that property and put in something of the scale of Avalon across the street from Avalon. And then we'd be in serious amount of trouble as far as residential unit increase impact on town services. So I don't think we have to be that clear. If from the state's perspective, they might favor that. They might like us to fall below 10% because then more housing would get built outside of our control. But I think we at least have to make the point in the comments where we stand relative to 10%, what we've been trying to do to manage that in terms of our own infrastructure and planning, and come on pretty strongly that we would strongly recommend that whatever development gets done here has a component of affordable housing, that we'd be willing to work on a friendly 40B with the developer, be willing to increase the number of units for an agreement for a certain amount of affordable housing to be built. So I guess my comment would be that our comments ought to strongly recommend that when the RFP goes out, that the state recommends that affordable housing be included as a component of the project, and the town is willing to work with the developer, to make that happen. And as Amy said, to sort of put back to them that this is all being done under the auspices of the Affordable Housing Act. So both from the state's desire to build affordable housing and from the town's desire to build affordable housing, we can work together to make that happen. So that'd be my comment about kind of a focus of the comment letter, among other things that, you're probably going to want to put in there. But, like I said, there's a potential still for some significant market rate housing going on in town. And like I said, I'm not clear what the future of those 80 units on King Street is, but if they get built, that's going to put us perilously close to 10%, not considering this project, and that'll probably could put us under 10%. So I guess that's my comment.
Are you saying that those 80 units wouldn't have to comply with the 15% affordable?
They were permitted before this went into effect, so they're grandfathered under the old zoning.
Yeah, God. And so then you think that that's worth bringing up in our letter to the state, that we have a potential 80 unit market rate housing coming on that would affect our percentage?
Yeah, you might. I don't know, Lori, what do you think about getting that specific? Whether you want to
Yeah.
sort of get into that, or just basically say that, based on the amount of market rate housing we have now and, units permitted, already permitted in the future, that
Okay.
10.28% could potentially fall down to very close to 10%. And if this project doesn't include any affordable housing, it could put us below 10%.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how
Okay.
specific you want to be, but.
that's a good point. I think that's a great point, Rick. Thank you.
I wonder if the state really cares if fall below or not.
They
Like
say
I said,
they care,
they may think that having another big 40B done in Northborough is to their advantage.
Exactly.
and that's
But not ours. But
unfortunate.
but I think we have to make the point, though. And I think, as Amy said, it is the Affordable Housing Act, so
Right,
there could be some affordable housing as part of this project.
right. Lori did do a draft letter that I could bring up, or should we, or we could take comments on what you feel as a board. But I know my feeling would be to keep it as minimum with the 4 units per acre to start and see how we go from there.
I think Lori had a great comment about the duplex, triplex being usually not so much, families with kids, more so as to whether it's people starting out without kids or people sunsetting. But I'd almost want to put that in there as incentive to add to housing, because I think she's absolutely right that it's going to have less of an impact on the schools.
And
I
so we
also
could
think,
include, sorry.
I mean, something I would personally prefer as much of the property to remain open space as possible. So by reducing the number of buildings that are built, so more units per building, that's taking up less land of the property, that would keep more of it open space, would also have the same effect there.
And would you also include townhouses in that type of structure?
Who are you questioning?
Anybody?
Everybody? Yeah.
I mean,
know there's
duplexes,
some,
triplexes are nice, but townhouses I think can be nice too.
Right. There are some developments that allow like single family duplexes, triplexes. We could work with the developer on how they want to lay it out. We could have into the letter that we'd be open, to talking to a developer. Do you want me to bring up the letter, Lori? Or does the board want to see the possible start of the letter?
I do.
There are also some other folks in the audience.
Oh, do they have their hands
I
raised?
see Julianne is in there, Fran Backstrom, Ray Carlson, Scott Rogers. I don't know if they had any comments that they'd want to share.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see any hands up, but here's Fran. Hi, Fran.
So much, Amy. Fran Backstrom, 76 Cedar Hill Road. I'm just going to echo what Rick just said. I think this is the Affordable Care Act. We should, to lean towards that. Amy, I was thrilled to hear you talking about, the inclusionary zoning and the fact that this is the opportunity to make things affordable. I will say that smaller footprints should be looked at as entry level and or downsizing, and not necessarily focus on the price point, because the more we build, the less expensive they become, and therefore the more affordable they are. But including something, the 10% or whatever, into affordable housing, or 15%, I think is really key to keeping us on under that 10% or over the 10%, and actually making it affordable for people. And thank you for taking comments tonight.
Okay, thank you. Rick, do you have your hand up again?
I do not.
Oh, okay. I see Julianne. Hi, Julianne.
Hi, thanks for taking my my call. So can you just review what Judy Boyle said is the smaller square footage house in like a $400,000 to $500,000 range, something that real estate agents are asked for frequently?
Not sure if Judy is she's still on the screen, but Judy, can you hear us?
I can. Julianne, would you please repeat the question?
So in that price range of $400,000 to $500,000, what some people call a starter home, or maybe a home that a senior would downsize to, is that the category that you're asked for frequently?
Well, it would either be a considered an entry-level home or a downsizing empty nester home. And I'm just doing a quick calculation. So 1,200, assuming price per square foot is $350, that would put us at about $420 per square foot plus any engineering. So that would put you right up into the 500 to 600 point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really right now that is the most demand that I'm seeing is people that want to buy into the town or again, families that have been here for 20, 30 plus years that would like to stay in town, and they have large homes, but they're cashing in all this equity into and just not being able to find something suitable to downsize to. So like I said, they want to downsize without sacrificing. So that would open up a lot of options at that entry level price point.
Thank you. That's what I thought you said, and experiencing through my daughter who's trying to move back to central Massachusetts right now, there's very little of that available. And so my only comment would be that when you do submit any questions and comments to the state, is that we're finding in Northborough, we can't speak for other towns, but that those smaller homes are just not being built. But that's where the young people really need to have that kind of housing inventory, I think. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. What I hear too is they are looking for home ownership versus rentals, because the rentals now are so expensive that, they're paying $4,000, $2,000 to $4,000 a month. They'll never be able to save up to buy the house. So I think it's important it'd be nice to have a neighborhood with smaller, more affordable homes. Okay. Does anybody else have anything in the audience that they want to add? I don't see any. I can bring up Lori's letter. See. And this was subject to change because Lori and I knew that we were meeting tonight and we're open to all your comments. I can hide my comments. We can send it out to the board because we do have until July 18th now to send it in. And we did invite the ZBA tonight, but many of them weren't able to make it. So they're adding it to their agenda next week, and they're gonna watch our Zoom or talk about our Zoom, and they're gonna send back some feedback.
And so we didn't get this letter already, correct?
No, this is just
Okay.
because Lori we thought that the comments would have to be in by June 27th. We just didn't hear until an hour before the meeting. We have to July 18th. So she wanted to have a draft memo because this would have been our only meeting
Yeah, okay.
before that
And
date.
also, I'm on vacation after our meeting tonight until the 30th. I'll be returning on the 30th. So I was concerned that I wouldn't have enough time to write a letter, and I wanted to help you guys to give you a start.
I mean, I think it's great. The more we can get under our belts, the sooner we can begin to wrap our heads around it. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I think, Amy, looking at this isn't that different than what's already in the RC district, right? I mean, the building height, the
Correct.
common open space, all that looks pretty similar. Do
Mhm.
we want to add anything about the affordable? I don't see if you added anything about affordable.
Down here.
Okay,
I just didn't know if people had gotten that far.
got it. Thank you.
So maybe can we add in some of Rick's comments about kind of where we are and what we would like to propose on that?
Sure, I can add that. Oh, I'm
Oops.
sorry, Amy.
Oh, I was almost afraid of adding that we're close to going under 10% because like people said, they might be like, well, that's an opportunity.
Right.
Like, I
Well,
don't
but
know if
then
they'll,
again, that would be true for, you said only 20 communities in the state are above 10%, and you know, I don't think they're purposely trying to make people go below. They're already there. Oh, sorry, Lori, you're muted.
I'm sorry, my daughter was talking to me, so
Oh,
excuse me.
no worries, no worries.
Am I still part of the discussion, Amy?
you are. Yep, you're still here.
Yeah, I think, mentioning that we've been able to maintain 10% affordable housing, in support of the state's desire to create affordable housing,
Yeah.
we're one of the 20% of communities that have done this. We've been very active in doing this. It's our desire to continue to do that, wrap this into, it should be worded in a way to say, we are conforming to what the state wants done.
Yeah,
And so we want to continue to do that somehow.
this would help
Something
us be
that should be
compliant.
brought out, that,
Yeah.
where we stand. Maybe we don't have to, maybe it might be a little bit too extreme to talk about the fact we're going to fall below 10%, but at least to bring out the point that we currently maintain, 10.2% affordable housing, and that we've always tried to be, sensitive to the state's needs for affordable housing. We want to continue to do that. Something to that effect.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
point.
That sounds good. Do you mind adding that, Lori? Or Rick, you could write it up and send it to us if you want to word it, or I can try to.
And I also took some notes, so I'm pretty clear on what you folks want. So I'd be
Okay.
happy to put something together for your consideration.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any more comments? I was going to next on our agenda, I was going to talk about housing, but I think we did it all under this one section.
Or, I mean,
Did-
can we, or,
Oh, sorry.
or
Go ahead,
can you,
Carter.
can you open the letter up again?
Sure. You want to see the first page or the second
Yeah,
page?
the first page.
I'm
'Cause-
gonna
So
put
you're
my-
saying, I mean, those, like the dimensional requirements, are those just what's currently the, zoning district?
No, no.
No,
So this would be a loosening of the requirements. So right now,
okay,
we allow 2 single-family homes per acre or 1 duplex per acre. Or it's actually 30,000 square feet. We have side setback requirements of 15 feet. So right now, buildings would have to be a minimum of 30 feet apart. So this would provide some more flexibility by only having them 20 feet apart, which is sufficient according to the fire department for the fire apparatus.
Mhm.
The minimum front yard setback in the RC district is 30 feet. So I'm proposing 15 feet, because once again, I was trying to give an incentive. So a loosening of our standards. The minimum open space, I was thinking that especially if it was a condominium development, this kind of goes along with what you had suggested, Carter, that there be some area that could be enjoyed. Of course, if it's a condo, it's all common open space, but it would be nice to have an area with an amenity in it, whether it's a community garden or whether it's just a green area where maybe a dog park or, something. And then the 2 spaces per dwelling unit is consistent with our parking regulations. So as you can see in the paragraph under that, I put in that we would like the opportunity to review it through the site plan approval process. And we have a number of site design and construction standards that are specified in our zoning bylaw. One of the questions that we asked DCAM and didn't receive an answer for was whether our site design and construction standards would be applicable to a project on DCAM land. Since we didn't receive an answer, I suggested asking them, telling them that we want site plan approval and we want the project to adhere to these requirements. So they specifically deal with drainage, outdoor lighting, landscaping, open space design, and pedestrian access. I put in another sentence that Amy struck out because I wanted, if the Del Webb parcel was interested in purchasing this property, then maybe they want to do a development at much greater density than 4 units per acre. So I was suggesting that they comply with our off-street parking and loading regulations. So for multifamily, the parking requirements are slightly bigger. So it includes, I think it's 10% for visitor parking spaces. And then there are specific design requirements for parking lots. We have landscaping within parking lots. We have loading spaces. We have requirements for dumpsters, striping, the size of access lanes and the like. So that's why I included that sentence.
I only crossed it out because I thought we were looking for 4 dwelling units per acre. And I kind of thought if we opened up the door to multifamily dwellings, then they're gonna say, well, they don't really want the 4, they want more. That was my only thing, but I added at the bottom that we'd also be interested in open discussions with, if they want to do more than what we set forth. I didn't want to shut the door. I just wanted it. My screen sharing is paused.
I mean, I guess I'm not really sure why we care that much of it keeping it at 4 per acre if like the number of units is probably more what we are more concerned about. If somebody wanted to build on 1 acre of it, 6 units, but not, not every acre of that property having more than 4 units, that wouldn't change the number of units that's getting built. It would just be you have a bigger building instead of 4 houses on each acre.
So
Right, I mean-
Carter, particularly in a condominium development,
Mhm.
they typically would aggregate the houses together. So the 4 dwelling units per acre. I see what you're saying. Maybe it'd be clearer to say we want 20 units.
Yeah.
Because generally when you say 4 units per acre, it's 4 units times, 5 acres. And so that ends up being 5.45 acres. So that ends up being 21 units. And then we don't really care how they're dispersed.
Mhm.
In this case, they're not wetlands, but they have to provide roadway and stormwater mitigation. So there's going to be some sort of detention basins on the sites. And so they group them so it doesn't work out to 4 units per acre, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
It's basically
Yeah.
just the calculation. So they do 5.45 times the 4 dwelling units per acre.
Mhm.
What do you think about this sentence
get
at
a
the bottom?
total.
Do you think it's
it could
needed,
be.
not needed? I added that we're also interested, if there are bidders that have different ideas. Like, say we don't get somebody who is willing to do what we're asking, but there is someone willing to come forth. Would we be open to that? Or should we not even include that?
Can you say that again, Amy? I'm not sure I quite.
So there's a red sentence here where I wrote the planning board of approvals and zoning board of approvals is also interested in open discussions with interested bidders in a possible friendly 40B neighborhood setting development. So I don't know, maybe I should leave it off. I added that thinking if there were developers who wanted to come forth with different ideas, we'd be willing to listen to them versus just what we were stipulating above. So like we're stipulating 4 dwelling units per acre, distance 20 feet. And that's really what we are looking for. But I was also adding that we're also open if someone else has a different idea. But maybe they know that, and maybe we don't even have to add that.
So I don't think that they would have to, if they wanted to do multifamily development, I don't think they'd have to go under 40B because this is state land. So I think they just build it at the density that the state is willing to give them. And I don't think we really have a say outside of site plan review.
So you don't think if we write 4 dwelling units per acre, you think they can come in and do whatever they want? The amount of,
If the state allows them to do that, then yep.
I didn't know. I see
There's
2 people
there's
now.
definitely the potential for a bigger project than 4 units per acre to be built. That's why I think it's important to emphasize some of this is gonna be affordable.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing
I
I was
just-
thinking, Lori, is up in this where the bullets are on the first page. Once again, to show how interested we are in cooperating, would it be helpful to put what our current zoning says and how we're willing to loosen it? So it says minimum density 4 units per acre compared to our current zoning of whatever it is, minimum distance for buildings 20 feet compared to our current zoning, which is currently something bigger than that. So just another way of showing that we're willing to cooperate.
I think that's a good point.
Sure, we can
Yeah.
do that.
I think the only one that wouldn't change would be the bottom one, I think conforms to our current zoning, but I think the other ones are all loosening our zoning, so I might as well let them know, we're working with you guys, work with us.
Good point, Rick. Thank you.
I see 2 other people who had their hands up. Julie Ann Hirsch, you had yours up first. I guess I have to unmute.
Yeah, hi. You're talking about more high density and, most likely the state will declare that they want, more apartment buildings or, however many units they can fit on that property. But I just want to kind of reiterate the point that are we missing what people are really looking for? And is the goal here just to build housing so that we can say we're building housing, or is it really to pave the way for the future for young families? I think a point was brought up earlier that rents are very high. They're almost, mortgage payments. And if we could provide housing that is not going to be, 100 units on this property, but maybe a little bit less, but something that will build equity for young families and provide some options that are really not available so much now. So that's my only point. Thank you.
Is there any way to add that too? That the reason why we're doing this type of housing is we do want to pave the way for the future for the younger families or for the seniors to downsize. The reason why we're picking this type of housing is it's because what is the greatest need in our area. We're really looking into it.
Sure. I can add that.
I mean, because on the agenda for the meeting, we were also going to have, I guess, a more broader conversation about housing. Can we I don't know, we're kind of doing that, but specifically talking about just this one property. I mean, can we maybe broaden like what actually kind of housing do we want in the town? And then, you
Yeah,
know,
we can do that after.
yeah.
I just want to
Um,
finish up what we want Lori to add to the letter first.
I was just thinking, I mean, if we're saying we need this in the town, so we want to say that to the state, but before we talk about what do we need in the town.
Right, well, that's why we talked to Judy to see what she's hearing, what people are looking for. And there's a housing plan. It is back to 2012, but it talked about, you know, first-time home buyers. And a housing need. But we'll definitely get into that. I just wanted to make sure first that everybody has all the ideas that they wanted to put forth in the letter.
Fran has her hand up.
Okay, Fran?
Thank you again, Amy. Just so that I understand, this letter is meant to explain to the state what we would like to see in the RFP, the bids that they grant to this 5 acres. Is that correct? Okay, so then we should put what we really want, not, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. So I think that it is smart to say that our normal zoning is X, but here we're looking to do Y, and it's because we want to, invite those, first time property owners and or people downsizing, because this is what we want it to be. We might get stuck with anything, we don't know, but at least we're telling them what we want. My second though is a question, we keep talking about it being state-owned land, but when they sell it to a developer, or they retaining ownership? Because I would imagine that once they sell it to whoever, their rights of not having to do 40Bs is moot because they're no longer the owners of the land.
They did write in the guidance, they're gonna put a deed restriction on it, that it can be housing only, and they did say 4 units minimum. So maybe
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to figure out, what the guidance is telling us, like, I know it's gonna be the deed restriction, but after they do sell it, does that mean the developer now comes to the town and they do have to follow our zoning other than the 4 units per acre? Or
Right.
does the state, when they put it out to RFP, say, you know, you can do whatever you want? I don't know.
Then I think that since we are uncertain of that, I would be very specific in this letter as to what our wish list is and not throw just everything up against the wall and see what sticks. So, I mean, I think that what you have is fine. And yes, of course, we would have discussion if somebody comes up and, the state grants a bid to a developer who wants to put a 5-story high rise. I mean, we're not going to have any say over that then, right? So let's tell them what we really want, not what we'll take if we have to. And
Right.
thanks again for taking comments.
Thanks.
But to that point, Lori, once this gets sold privately to a developer, this is now a project located in Northborough. The people who live there are Northborough residents. They become Northborough taxpayers. I mean, I guess the question, it's not still state land anymore. I mean, has it now become part of the town of Northborough?
I think so. And
So
I'm
it
speaking in
transitions
front of
from being
Lori, but-
state-owned property to now part of the inventory of the town of Northborough.
So I'm not quite sure, as we had mentioned, we had a number of questions that we put forth to DCAM and we didn't really receive any straight answers to any of our questions. So one of the confusing things is that it says in the guidance that pretty much they can ignore our zoning bylaws. But it's not clear to what extent they can ignore our zoning bylaws. I know, possibly what they plan to do is issue an RFP for a developer to develop the property. And so the state still owns the land during the development process. And then when the development is complete, they sell it to the developer or to a property manager or whatever the case may be. So I'm not exactly sure about that. But I think that in this letter, because we don't really know the answers to our questions, we should say what we want. And that's why I included that bit about the site design and construction standards. Because I want to make sure to the maximum extent feasible that they are going to comply with our regulations. You know, we have a set process of doing site plan approval. We have set standards that say how we want, these certain facilities designed. So I'd like them to comply. So maybe they would comply anyway, but because I don't know that for sure, I figure we should put that in our letter.
I'm wondering if we should also have town council read the guidance and give us his opinion, because one of the replies is, she just sent back the guidance that we had, that we asked questions about, and she said, any more questions, reach out to your town council. So I'm wondering if some of the question we have, we ask him. I have a hard time believing he would know the answers right away, since this is all new to everybody. But their answer was to reach out to your town council. I don't know. Do we ask him some questions, Lori, and see if they know any more?
We could.
I think that'd be a good place for the question about what happens to the land after it's sold in relation to, does it become Northborough property like everything else? The only state-owned land that has residential on it right now that I'm familiar with are the housing authority properties. That's all rental housing.
Yeah, it would definitely be sold. It's gonna be, like for example, if it's a condominium development, then it'll be sold to people who buy the units. If it's single family development, it's the same thing. If it's a rental development, then it'll be sold to, a real estate company that will own it. So ultimately, the state is going to be selling the land. I'm just not sure where in the process that will take place. Is it going to be before it's developed? Or is it going to be after it's developed? Because that makes a big difference as far as zoning is concerned.
Hmm.
And once it's built, it's built, it's obviously they're not going to be knocking down the buildings to build in compliance with our zoning.
I
Well,
wonder
I just think
if
we should be
it's,
clear on beyond zoning. What other town regulations will this property start to conform to once it's sold that doesn't conform to now or have to conform to because it's state-owned land?
Like,
There's
what
a
do you
lot of
mean, Rick?
regulations and rules of the town of Northborough have nothing to do with zoning that probably don't apply to this property right now.
So it's my understanding that like Title V, it still have to comply to that. It still would have to comply with the conservation requirements, like the stormwater management bylaw.
Lori, in your experience, has anything of this sort happened before where we have somewhat of a bit of a mandate from state-owned property
I did
in
have
other
experience
towns?
in the past with a state police barracks, and they just went ahead and built it. So they did have to comply with Conservation Commission requirements. They didn't go to planning board at all. There was no site plan review.
Right, but that was state-owned property for a state police barracks. I guess what I'm asking is the state selling property with mandates to the town, basically, on what happens, even though they won't be owning it.
I haven't come across this for housing before. No.
Okay, because I didn't know if this was somewhat a typical occurrence in selling large parcels of land from the state, or, I mean, in the history of state selling off land, is this something that you've heard of from other town planners, or?
I know that this DCAM sold part of the Westboro State Hospital before to the town of Westboro.
Right. Do you know if they had mandates on, or, preferred, criteria on that?
I can reach out to the planner. I know she's relatively new within the last maybe year and a half. But she might know something about it.
Just be
That's
curious.
what the Del Webb property is. The Del Webb property was Westboro State, and they sold it to the town. But I don't think there were mandates on it. But the Northborough land was offered to Northborough too, years ago, like 20 years ago, I think. So Westboro State, when it closed down, the state offered for sale the Westboro side of it and the Northborough side of it. And I think the towns could decide if they wanted to buy their part. And Northborough decided not to buy the part. So on the majority of it, they built a DCAM garage, and they did have to go to conservation for that. And then this piece is also Westboro State land. But I know the mandates are coming out of the Affordable Housing Act, which is new as of last year, so.
Right, so that's what I was trying to see, if there's any type of precedent that we might be able to gain some insight to on how they're gonna process this and who to go to.
Westboro, I know, is asking a lot of questions too, and they've been meeting with DCAM,
Yeah.
so I don't think they have all the answers either. But I do know, I think we could try to meet with DCAM, not as a board, but I think they might meet with like Steph and Lori and
again,
talk, answer questions.
Is it worth reaching out to Westboro to see kind of where they are, what they're doing, so we're not kind of duplicating things without being more efficient, using our time more efficiently?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to reach out to the Westboro planner.
Thank you.
Okay. Lori, so since we don't need the letter submitted until July 18th, should we leave it open? Our next meeting is that July 15th?
Yep, July 15th. It's not a public hearing, so we can just put it on the next agenda.
And then we'll hear back from the ZBA. And if the select board also has any comments, they could send them to us. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Okay, hearing none. Next on the agenda, I did add a housing discussion. And I thought we covered a lot of it, but Carter would like to talk about it. So do you have any specific questions you wanted to ask Carter?
Or, well, I guess, I mean, what was the idea of what, that discussion was going to be about in the first place?
Well, I was actually hoping that someone from the school committee and the superintendent would come and we could get input from the different groups, like the Board of Selectmen or the school committee, and And so we could have like a round table discussion on housing. But since they're not here,
Yeah. I mean, I was a few days ago just looking through some of the zoning about housing. And I mean, one just question I had that I noticed was in like the types of housing that are allowed. There's single family housing, and then there's also like cottage dwelling. What is the difference between the two of those?
So a cottage dwelling is only allowed on a 5,000 square foot lot.
Mhm.
So I believe it's only allowed in the downtown neighborhood district. And the idea is that the houses, they'd be very small, so single
Mhm.
family, kind of starter houses.
But like, so it's I mean, it's because I mean, from what I could tell reading it, like the only defined thing was it was a certain size of the house, and then it said it's only allowed in the one, um, zoning district. But obviously, I mean, I don't think there's anything actually stopping someone from building a house that's small in any residential district. I mean, is it anything?
It's the 5,000 square foot. So
Okay.
we don't have lots that small anywhere in
Mhm.
town.
Okay.
Other than, of course, the downtown business
Mhm.
district is,
Okay.
they don't have minimum lot sizes, but that's pretty much the difference is the 5,000 square foot
Mhm.
lot
Yeah.
size.
Okay.
And that they are allowed as one of the options in our new inclusionary zoning bylaw.
anyone else have anything they want to add or talk about to do with housing tonight? Okay, hearing none. Next on the agenda is A&Rs, lot releases and bonds. Do we have any, Lori?
We have none.
Okay, and next is old business, new business. We have the minutes of June 3rd. And let's see, I can share them because I know Carter, you had some additions and questions. Let's see. Okay. Can everybody see these?
Yes.
Okay. The only change I had was Mr. to Ms. And I had that sentence. And then Carter had noticed that it was Mr. Blanchett. That was probably just a copy from a different meeting, a cut and paste. Did you, oh, you asked if you were eligible to vote on these and you couldn't. So
Well,
it should probably,
was, yeah, so what happened there, I believe that was because that was approving the minutes of, yeah, May 20th, and I was trying to ask a question, but then somebody made the motion to vote on it, so we started the vote, then I voted no, and then we changed something, and then we did the vote again. So I think that first roll call vote list should just get deleted is what, because
okay.
then the roll calls the next thing down.
Okay. I was just wondering, maybe we had taken the roll call vote twice and then the second one, Bill made a motion to amend the minutes because you had some changes. So I was wondering, if we took the roll call vote to begin with. but it does make
think
sense if
From
we
the
take it
video,
out.
we started and then we just kind of interrupted it. I don't think we finished the first one, but if people
Okay.
that was different, then I think that's what happened anyways, but
Okay, so that would make sense. We'll take off the first part right here. Just delete it. And then leave this as accept. And then this was a sentence that you wanted to add.
So I think, Amy, we would want to keep the first sentence because you did propose amendments. And then, so we just delete the roll call vote. So keep the rest of it. So I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
that, I think probably Bill did make a motion that was seconded, and then you just didn't vote.
Okay,
Is that right, Carter? Is that your memory too?
I believe so, yes.
okay. So if we didn't take the roll call vote, the motion died and then we made another one? Possibly. Okay. So Carter, was this the other sentence that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think I had I'm just trying to remember because I had written my own.
I cut and pasted it out of the email
Okay.
you sent.
Um
You can double check.
oh well there was just another part on the previous one. I know there was just a typo. I don't know if you caught that one. But hold on.
It was basically changing indicated to indicate.
Yeah,
I don't,
Okay. Oh, right up here?
yep. No, it was somewhere else. This indicated that a typical,
Right here?
no.
yeah,
No,
that sentence is good. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't there though.
It was
Or indicates to indicate
basically
it.
just under the other part we changed.
It's just a typo.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it up on the screen right now?
Oh,
Mm,
to indicate. I see. It's on the bottom of page 5. So it should be to indicate, not indicated. Mr. Brandon amended the minutes to indicate that he was unable to vote on the application because he did not attend 2 sessions.
yeah,
Okay. Usually what we do, I know you asked in an email, if we review the minutes in advance, what we do is Lori sends them out. And then if we have changes, we send them back just to her, so it's not sent to the whole committee.
mm-hmm.
And then she'll combine them all.
Okay.
And we send them out, but we still could talk about them during the meeting if you had another question, but we try to get them back to her so she can send them out
Mhm.
before the meeting. And then you had also brought up that you didn't want to use your pronoun. Like you don't want Mr. Brandon?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you rather it say?
I mean, you would just put like M, I guess, instead of Mr.
Okay. Everybody could have their own, everybody gets to decide what they want. So I don't know, Lori, if it's I don't know if is it in the code, the general code, how we have to do it, or he could be M. Brannon and then I'll stay Ms. Paretsky, and it's up to everybody else, what you would like. to go by in the minutes.
Or you could put board member Brannon,
Yeah,
because to me,
that's-
M
I-
Brannon might be like, is M the first name? Is
Yeah.
just board
But I
member
think-
Brannon.
We could do Carter Brannon.
You
Mhm.
could also
Leave
do
your
that.
name.
imagine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just whatever to keep it somewhat consistent of not everyone having something completely different. But I mean, I know different boards have different things that they put in the minutes. I think the select board puts the chair as chair or whoever, and then member for the other members of the board.
Mhm.
Some of them is just the names. So
Well, what, you know, like typically Carter in a paragraph, at first we might say Carter Brannon,
yeah.
and then, you know, on, and then he said,
Mhm.
but you don't want that. So you
I-
want
I would
every
prefer not to
time
have
to
that.
say Carter Brannon, Carter Brannon, Carter Brannon.
Or even just Brannon would be.
See Brannon.
Your choice, but it's, we just have to make sure we know what it is, so the minute
Mhm.
taker,
And then everybody else, do you want it to be consistent with what Carter wants, or do you want it to be the way it currently is done for yourselves?
For
I'm fine
me,
with how
I'm
mine
fine
currently
with
is.
current.
Me
I'm
too.
current as well.
what did you say, Bill? I didn't hear the current?
Yeah, I agree with Millie. Just, for me anyways, staying current to how it is.
Yeah, I will too. Anthony?
I'm good with the way it is.
Okay, and then Carter, what did you decide? Just so, was it C Brannon or Brannon?
You can just do Brannon's fine.
Okay,
Okay. So you don't want me to say he or him? You always want me to say Brannon?
That would be fine.
That would be fine, as in you always want me to say Brannon, you don't want me to
Yeah.
say? Okay.
so I never took a motion on the minutes for June 3rd. Is everybody all set with the amendments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended for June 3rd, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Millie Milton,
Aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
Carter Brannon,
I
Bill Pierce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, the minutes have passed. Are there any subcommittee updates?
Not for me.
Not for me.
None for me either. Our next planning board meeting is July 15th. And then August 19th. And so far, Lori, is it just the continuation of this letter for July 15th?
Yes, I have received no other filings as of this point.
Okay. All right, the next CBA meeting is June 24th. And the MPIC will be July 17th. Does anyone have anything else to add?
will we also try to get input from other boards at the meeting or before the meeting, the next one about this?
About the letter to
Yeah.
the state? The ZBA is gonna meet to discuss it.
Okay.
And I think the Board of Selectmen, I'll ask Julianne if they're gonna have comments also. And then Lori, we can decide, do we wanna ask Attorney Aikman a couple questions? Since, our state letter really wasn't responded to, it just said refer to town council. We can see what he thinks.
Okay,
Okay.
I won't be available for the next meeting, just to let you guys know.
Okay, if you have anything else, or if anybody else has ideas for the letter that they want to bring up, you can send it to Lori and we can discuss it at the next meeting, or we can just discuss it at the next meeting. But if you're not going to be there, Millie, and you want to
Oh,
send
wait.
something,
The next meeting is the 1st, right?
July 15th.
Oh, yeah, we're not doing.
We're only doing one meeting in July,
Yeah.
and I can't believe our next meeting is already July.
I know. Yeah, I won't be there for the 15th.
Okay. All right. Have a great vacation, Lori.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second. Okay, roll call vote. Millie Milton,
aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
Carter Brannon,
Aye.
Bill Pierce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Have a good night.
Night, everyone.
Thank you,
Good night,
Amy.
everyone.
That was really good. Thank you.
Bye.